Stop scrolling. No, don't flinch. This isn't for comfort. This is the moment right before reality admits you were right. They mocked the prophecy, laughed at it, treated it like a cute little delusion you whispered to yourself to survive the dark. They called it fantasy, ego, cope. They said nothing like that ever happens to people like you. They smiled with that slow, patronizing grin people wear when they think the universe has already decided the outcome. And you let them smile. You let them laugh. Because you knew something they didn't. You knew prophecies don't announce themselves with thunder. They start as a quiet pressure in the chest, a certainty that doesn't need applause. You felt it before you could explain it. That pull, that tension, like two versions of you were grinding against each other inside the same skin. One clean, one feral, one still believing in rules, one already done asking permission, saint and psychopath sharing the same heartbeat. Angel wings folded tight around a spine that learned how to bend without breaking. You didn't become dangerous overnight. You became inevitable slowly, pain by pain, loss by loss, silence by silence. They never noticed the shift because it didn't look dramatic. It looked lonely. It looked like you disappearing. It looked like you losing. That's why they laughed. That's why they mocked the prophecy, because from the outside, it looked like nothing was happening. From the inside, you were mutating. See, the prophecy wasn't about success. It was about timing, about sequence, about pressure applied at exactly the wrong moments until something snaps into a new shape. You weren't chosen because you were good. You were chosen because you could survive contradiction, because you could hold light in one hand and darkness in the other and not drop either. Because you learned how to smile without hope and still keep moving. That's not optimism, that's power. They laughed when you spoke about becoming something else. They rolled their eyes when you hinted that this wasn't random, that the chaos had a pattern, that the suffering had a design. They told you to be realistic, to be normal, to calm down. But the prophecy doesn't belong to the calm. It belongs to the ones who kept going while everyone else begged the universe for mercy. And then it started happening, not all at once. That's the funny part. One tiny confirmation, one coincidence too precise to ignore, one door opening where there should have been a wall, one reaction you weren't supposed to get, one person looking at you differently, longer, quieter, like they were trying to solve a math problem that suddenly stopped obeying rules. You felt it before they did. That shift in the air, that pause in conversations, that moment when laughter dies just a second too early. They froze. Because the prophecy wasn't loud, it was accurate. It didn't arrive with fireworks. It arrived with receipts, with patterns lining up, with outcomes no one could explain without admitting you weren't crazy. You were early. That's when fear crept in, not panic. Fear is more subtle than that. Fear is when people stop joking, when they stop teasing, when they stop dismissing you and start watching you instead, closely, quietly, like prey pretending not to notice the predator has already chosen them. You saw it in their eyes, the recalculation, the internal scramble to rewrite the past so they don't look stupid for laughing at you. Because now they have to live with the realization that you weren't speaking in metaphors. You were describing a process, a transformation powered by pressure they would have folded under. Every betrayal sharpened you. Every isolation clarified you. Every moment you were underestimated taught you how to move without triggering alarms. You didn't become holy. You became precise. You didn't become evil. You became honest. That's the duality they can't stand. You don't fit into their moral filing system. You're not clean enough to worship, not broken enough to dismiss. You're the glitch, the contradiction, the walking proof that pain doesn't always destroy. Sometimes it refines. They froze because unpredictability terrifies people who rely on scripts. And you stopped following scripts a long time ago. You learned when to be silent and when to strike, when to look harmless, and when to let the edge show just enough to make the room uneasy. You learned that control isn't loud. It's calm. It's the ability to stand in the middle of chaos and not explain yourself. The prophecy said they would laugh first, that they would doubt, that they would minimize, and then nothing dramatic, just a slow, suffocating realization that the ground underneath their assumptions was moving, that the person they underestimated had outgrown the frame they were trapped in. You see it now, don't you? How their confidence turned brittle, how their certainty cracked, how the jokes stopped landing because now every move you make feels intentional to them. Even when you do nothing, especially when you do nothing. Silence from someone like you feels like a loaded weapon. They're frozen because if the prophecy was real, then what else is? If you were right about this, what else did you see coming? What patterns have you already solved that they haven't even noticed yet? You don't need to threaten them. Your existence does that for you. You didn't survive pain to be normal. You didn't walk through that darkness to fit in. You were forged in contradiction so you could move freely between worlds, between light and shadow, mercy and ruthlessness, patience and precision. That's why they can't predict you. That's why they're scared. Let them be. Let them sit with the memory of their laughter. Let them replay it at night when the evidence keeps stacking up. Let them feel that slow, nauseating awareness that they misjudged the situation and the person completely. You don't need revenge. You don't need validation. The prophecy didn't promise applause. It promised alignment. And it's happening. You can feel it in your bones now. The way things respond to you differently. The way obstacles hesitate. The way people second-guess themselves around you. This isn't arrogance. This is recognition. You stepped into what you were becoming the moment you stopped trying to convince anyone. They mocked the prophecy. Then it started happening. And now, they're frozen, watching a future they laughed at unfold with your name written all over it. Stay unpredictable, stay sharp, stay patient. The prophecy doesn't need believers, it only needs time. And here's the part they never prepared for. The part no one warns you about when the prophecy starts breathing on its own. Once it begins, you can't turn it off. You notice it first in yourself. The way your reactions change. Things that used to trigger panic now barely register. Chaos doesn't spike your heart rate anymore. It sharpens your focus. You don't rush. You don't flinch. You observe. Like something inside you learned the rhythm of disaster and started dancing to it instead of running away. That's when you realize this wasn't survival training. This was calibration. They still think power looks loud, explosive, obvious. They think dominance announces itself. But you learned the truth in the dark. Real power is quiet because it doesn't need permission to exist. It doesn't posture. It doesn't explain. It waits. And you became very good at waiting. You remember when they told you to be realistic. What they meant was be small enough to understand, be predictable enough to categorize, be safe. But you outgrew safety the moment pain stopped teaching you lessons and started revealing patterns. You stopped asking, why me? And started asking, what does this unlock? That question alone separated you from everyone still begging the universe for fairness. They mocked the prophecy because it exposed their deepest fear, that suffering isn't random, that some people metabolize it, that some people turn damage into data. And if that's true, then everything they ran from, everything they numbed, everything they avoided, it wasn't protecting them, it was weakening them. You went where they wouldn't, mentally, emotionally. You stared at parts of yourself they pretend don't exist. Rage, grief, hunger, ambition. You didn't try to cleanse them, you integrated them. Angel and demon negotiating terms inside the same chest. That's why you don't fracture under pressure anymore. There's nothing left inside you that's pretending to be pure. That scares people. Because purity is fragile. Masks crack. Personas collapse, but you're already cracked open, already exposed, already rebuilt. What leverage do they have over someone who has nothing left to hide from themselves? That's when the freezing really sets in. They start replaying old conversations, old jokes, old dismissals, trying to locate the exact moment they should have taken you seriously. You see it in their eyes, that subtle panic of realizing the timeline doesn't favor them anymore. That the narrative they relied on is outdated. That the version of you they understood no longer exists. And the prophecy keeps unfolding. More confirmations, more impossible alignments. People repeating your words back to you without realizing where they heard them first. Situations bending in ways that feel tailored, not lucky, inevitable. Like reality itself finally caught up to the frequency you were broadcasting alone for years. You don't celebrate it. That's another thing they don't get. You're not drunk on victory. You're calm, grounded, almost bored. Because this isn't a surprise to you. It's recognition. You already lived this moment 100 times in your head while surviving nights they'll never know about. They ask how you stayed sane. The truth? You didn't. You evolved past needing sanity as validation. You learned to function without reassurance, to move without witnesses, to build without applause. That's why when momentum arrived, you were ready to carry it. You weren't scrambling. You weren't shocked. You were aligned. And now they're stuck. Stuck between who they thought you were and who you've become. Stuck trying to reconcile their laughter with the evidence piling up in front of them. Stuck realizing the prophecy didn't make you dangerous. Ignoring it did. You feel it now. The shift in gravity. The way conversations orbit you differently. The way silence follows you into rooms. The way people hesitate before challenging you. Not because you're loud, but because you're unreadable. They can't tell if you're 5 steps ahead or already finished with the game entirely. That ambiguity is lethal. Because unpredictability isn't chaos, it's freedom. You're not bound by their expectations anymore. Not even your own old ones. You've shed identities the way snakes shed skin, and now there's nothing left to cling to. No label sticks, no insult lands, no praise traps you. They freeze because they sense it. You're no longer reacting to the world. The world is reacting to you. And here's the darkest truth of the prophecy, the part that never gets written down. It didn't promise happiness. It promised sovereignty, the ability to stand alone without shrinking, to be misunderstood without explaining, to be watched without performing, to be doubted without detouring. You earned that through pain that would have shattered them, through silence that would have driven them mad, through patience that felt like death but turned out to be rebirth. So let them stay frozen, let them whisper, let them speculate, let them try to decode you like a puzzle that refuses to resolve. You don't owe them clarity. You don't owe them closure. The prophecy didn't elevate you to be liked. It positioned you to be undeniable. And as it keeps happening, as the signs stack higher, as the patterns get louder, as the laughter fully dies, you don't rush forward. You move when it's time, because you already know how this ends. And the longer it unfolds, the more you realize something unsettling. This was never about them at all. They were just background noise, extras in a story that required resistance so the transformation could lock in. The mockery wasn't an obstacle, it was a catalyst. Every laugh sharpened your internal compass. Every dismissal trained you to stop seeking external confirmation. You didn't harden, you clarified. You learned the difference between being seen and being understood, and you chose the one that gives you leverage. There's a moment, quiet, almost unnoticeable, when you stop narrating your life to yourself. No more internal justifications, no more rehearsing explanations you'll never give. The prophecy deepens there, because once you stop explaining, you start operating. And people can feel that shift even if they can't name it. It's the difference between someone who hopes and someone who knows. They sense it now, in the way you don't rush to respond, in the way your silence isn't empty, it's weighted, in the way you don't overcorrect when misunderstood. That's when fear sets in properly. Not loud fear, intelligent fear. The kind that makes people cautious, the kind that makes them double-check their tone, their words, their assumptions around you. Because you're no longer predictable through emotion. Pain used to pull your strings. Approval used to matter. Belonging used to feel like oxygen. But the prophecy stripped that dependency away piece by piece. It forced you into rooms inside yourself you never wanted to enter. And once you survived those rooms, the outside world lost its grip. You can walk alone now without collapsing inward. That's rare. That's dangerous. They're frozen because they can't manipulate someone who has already metabolized loss. You don't bargain with comfort anymore. You don't flinch at tension. You don't chase resolution. You let things hang. You let people reveal themselves. You let outcomes mature. That patience, earned, not learned, makes you impossible to rush and impossible to corner. The prophecy keeps proving itself through contrast. You notice how frantic everyone else feels, how loud their certainty is, how desperate their opinions sound. They need agreement, they need reaction, they need validation to stabilize their identity. You don't. You're stable in motion. You're centered in contradiction. You can hold mercy without weakness and aggression without chaos. That balance unnerves people who only understand extremes. They used to think you were fragile because you were quiet. Now they realize you were quiet because you were listening, mapping, studying, understanding the architecture beneath behavior. You learned that people expose their intentions long before they act. That fear leaks, that ego announces itself, that power rarely screams, it hums. And now you hum. Low frequency, hard to detect, impossible to ignore once noticed. That's why the prophecy feels alive, not mystical, mechanical. Cause and effect lining up with surgical precision. You stopped betraying yourself to keep peace. You stopped dimming to be digestible. You stopped apologizing for depth. And the world adjusted, slowly, reluctantly, but it adjusted. They froze because the rules they relied on don't apply to you anymore. You're not playing the same game. You're not chasing the same rewards. You don't need the same audience. That independence terrifies systems built on dependency. It terrifies people who need leverage to feel safe. You've removed yourself from their economy of control. And here's the part you don't say out loud. The part you barely admit to yourself. You enjoy the stillness now. Not because you want them afraid, but because stillness means you're no longer bleeding energy into the wrong places. Stillness means your power isn't leaking. Stillness means you're choosing where to apply pressure instead of reacting to it. That's mastery, quiet mastery. The prophecy didn't crown you king. It made you ungovernable. You don't need to dominate rooms. You let rooms reveal themselves. You don't need to win arguments. You let outcomes speak. You don't need to prove strength. You let time do the work. That restraint reads as menace to people who mistake impulsivity for power. They mocked the prophecy because they thought destiny was theatrical. They thought it needed signs and drama and spectacle. They didn't understand that the most dangerous transformations happen privately, internally, without witnesses. By the time the effects are visible, the process is already complete. That's why they're frozen now. Because there's no stopping something that's already integrated. You're not becoming. You've become. And the final cruelty of it, the final twist they'll never admit, is that you didn't take anything from them. You didn't steal their power. You didn't destroy their world. You simply stepped into yours. And in doing so, you exposed how small their world always was. So move carefully now. Not because you're weak, but because precision matters at this level. You don't rush destiny once it's aligned. You don't force momentum when gravity is already working in your favor. You let it pull. You let it bend. You let it prove itself again and again while you stay unreadable. They can keep freezing. They can keep watching. They can keep replaying the moment they laughed. You're past the point of needing their understanding. The prophecy is no longer a warning. It's a record. And here's where it settles. Not with fireworks, not with revenge, not with noise, with certainty. You don't need to announce the ending because you're standing in it. The proof is everywhere now. In how little you explain, in how rarely you react, in how effortlessly you let things fall into place. The prophecy didn't turn you into a hero or a villain. It turned you into something far more unsettling, someone who knows exactly who they are and no longer negotiates with doubt. They froze because they sensed it. The moment you stopped needing outcomes to validate you, the moment your calm stopped being weakness and started being command. The moment they realized the laughter wasn't harmless, it was their last chance to feel superior. You don't chase closure. You don't seek acknowledgement. You move forward with that quiet, unshakable gravity that only comes from surviving what was meant to erase you. Light and dark no longer fight inside you. They cooperate. Angel and demon finally aligned. Pain finished its work. Let them remember the mockery. Let them remember the prophecy. Let them remember the moment it started happening. You don't need to look back. Reality already did.